Alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Today we're beginning a new topic of discussion after having discussed how to earn the pleasure of Allah. This topic I'm going to call it Islam is Good. This series will be entitled Islam is Good because since we've learned how life is all about trying to earn Allah's pleasure so we can enter into paradise, I want to now go into how if we implement the teachings of Islam into our lives, not only does it bring us closer to Allah, not only does it make us better Muslims, and not only will it help us in earning Allah's love, but it'll also make us better people in general. Because everything that Allah commands us to do and everything Allah encourages us to do is for our betterment. And also, guys, this series will serve as a great reminder for those of you who have children to help teach your children the basics of Islam. And for those of us here who are new shahadas, this is a great series for you to learn the rulings in regards to how to pray, to make wudu, and all those type of things too. And today we're going to speak about the wudu and the prayer. How Islam is good in regards to wudu and prayer. And this will serve as a great way of encouraging your children to pray, encouraging your children to make wudu, and etc. First of all, when it comes to wudu, there are certain things that we need to know. Some people make the religion of Islam harder on others by telling us that we have to do things that we don't have to do. And when it comes to wudu, sometimes the Prophet would perform it before every prayer. But other times he did not. And I want you guys to be careful. Be careful what you tell your children. Be careful what you tell new Muslims. Because when we impose conditions into our way of life that were not imposed by Allah, we end up making the religion hard and turning people off. How many of you have been told that you have to make a wudu every time it's time to pray, even if you didn't break it? Well, that's not true. You do not have to make a fresh wudu unless you broke it. And what are the things that break the wudu? Whenever you answer the call of nature, or whenever you pass gas, those are the things that break the wudu. But if you did not do anything to break the wudu, then you do not have to make a fresh one. Okay? So this is one thing we need to understand, the ease and the beauty of Islam. Unless you break your wudu, you don't have to renew it. Sometimes the companions would go the whole day off of just one wudu. I used to do that too when I was younger. I can make wudu at Fadur, and I wouldn't break it at all until Isha. Sometimes we can do that. And also when it comes to making wudu, we have to be very, very careful what we tell people with that. How many of you have been told that you have to wash the body parts 3 times? I was told that when I was a child. I was told that I had to wash my hands 3 times. I have to rinse out my nose 3 times. I have to wash, my arms 3 times. This is not correct. You can wash the body parts 1 time and your wudu is acceptable. Or you can wash them 2 times and your wudu is acceptable. Or you can wash them 3 times and your wudu is acceptable. Or you can mix it up, guys. For example, you can wash your hands 3 times and then do your arms just once. This is all acceptable as long as you stay in the sequence. As long as you stay in the sequence. As long as you stay in the sequence, and as long as you do not go over 3 times in washing. You can wash the body parts once, twice, or 3 times. That's it, no more. And you have to start off with the hands. You have to follow the order that the prophet taught us. Long as you follow the order that is taught and don't go over 3 times in washing, your wudu is acceptable. See how easy that is? What about when it comes to the head, to wiping over the head? Sometimes the prophet would wipe over the entire head. And sometimes he would simply just pass his hands back and forth. But it has never been authentically reported that he ever wiped over only a part of the head. So again, when it comes to wiping over your head, you can take your hands and run them from the front to the back and then back again. Okay? But you can't just sit there and say, I'm just going to do the top part of my head and not the back. And again, just like there are sunnahs of the prayer, there are sunnahs of the wudu as well. Sunnah meaning things that we don't have to do. Okay? And your wudu would be accepted. For example, the rinsing of the mouth and the sniffing of the water in the nose, these are sunnahs of the wudu. Sunnahs of the wudu. The prophet used to rinse his mouth and sniff his nose with water. And we should too if we're able to. But say, for example, you forgot to rinse your nose or you forgot to rinse your mouth, your wudu is still acceptable. Those are sunnahs of the wudu. Those are not the pillars of the wudu. The pillars of the wudu are the hands, the face, the arms, and the feet. Okay? And again, you have to follow the sequence. You have to follow the order of making it. Okay, also, what if a person has on a pair of socks? Can I make wudu over my socks? And if I am going to make wudu over my sock, does it have to be a leather sock? Or can it just be a cotton sock? Because we got some Muslims out there who are so fanatic, you can go on the internet and buy socks made out of leather. And these people live in America, walk around with these funny looking things on their feet. What the heck is that? That's so I can make wudu. It doesn't have to be leather. Okay? It can be cotton. It can be nylon, whatever. And if you're going to wipe over your feet, the only rule to that is that you must have made wudu over the entire foot at least once during that time before. So say, for example, I wake up for Fajr in the morning and I make wudu over my feet. But say when it's time for Dhuhr, I got on a pair of socks. I can make wudu over the top of my sock. And what about shoes? You can also make wudu over your shoes too. Again, you can make wudu over your shoes too. And also you can pray in your shoes. I know that may sound shocking to a lot of you Muslims. The prophet used to pray in his shoes. He didn't pray barefoot. Think about it. He lived in a desert in the 8th century. They didn't have floors. They didn't have carpet. Their ground was the sand. Do you guys know how hot the sand gets in the desert? It'll burn you. So the companions, they wore shoes. The Arabs wore shoes. The prophet used to pray in shoes. He didn't pray barefoot. Okay, so this is another thing too. A lot of Muslims think that it's haram to pray in your shoes. They even go so far as to think it's haram to wear your shoes in your house. There is nothing in Islam. There is nothing in Islam. There is nothing in Islam that forbids you from wearing shoes in your house. The reason why a lot of people don't is because you got carpet and you just don't want to track in the dirt. But there is nothing in Islam that says Muslims cannot wear shoes in their house. By the way, I have to wear shoes in my house. I'm flat foot. So if you ever come to my house, you're going to see me walking around with a pair of shoes on because I have flat feet. I can't go barefoot no more. Hello. And I have tendonitis. And guess what? There's nothing wrong with that because there's nothing in Islam that says I have to take my shoes off in my house anyway. This is another misconception we have. There's a lot of misconceptions. And when we add these misconceptions to the religion, we end up making the religion hard on other people. And also when it comes to making your wudu, guys, when you wipe over the ears, you want to do the inside and the outside. The inside and the outside along with your head. Okay? The ears are part of the head. Also, in regards to making the wudu, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never ever ever said a dua or a supplication of intentions before making it. And many of you, I know when I was a kid, I was taught to say supplication of intentions before I made wudu. And even before praying, I even remember they taught us to say Nuwaidu wa Sali Salatul Fajr or Salatul Dur or Salatul Maghrib, Rakatan Rakats inshallah. Astaghfirullah. Intentions are in the heart, not the tongue. You don't have to vocalize any intentions. The Prophet never said, I intend to make wudu before making wudu. The Prophet never said, I intend to pray before praying. The simple fact that you are standing up, walking to the bathroom to make wudu, that is your intention. The simple fact that you're standing up to pray, that is your intention. Okay, so I want you guys to remember that there is nothing to verbalize or vocalize before praying or before making wudu. This is an innovation. This is a great innovation that many Muslims indulge in. Okay. Also, guys, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made wudu, he used to run his fingers through his beard. But this again is a sunnah. It's not an obligation. Sometimes he would run his fingers through his beard. Sometimes he did not. Also, he used to wash between his fingers and toes when making wudu. But that's a sunnah too. How many of you have been told that you have to take your foot and put it in a sink and scrub the toes? That is not correct. That's a sunnah. You do not have to go between the fingers and the toes. All you have to do is make sure that the foot has water immersed over it. Going between the toes and all that is not an obligation. There also, some people will tell you that there's a hadith out there that states that whenever the Prophet made wudu, he would remove his ring. That hadith is not authentic. That hadith is not authentic. And again, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he traveled, or if he was at home and had on a pair of socks, he would wipe over the top of the socks. The same with the shoe. If he had shoes on and it was time to make wudu, he would wipe over the top of the shoe too. Again, as long as he made wudu over that foot at least one time within that 24 hours. Okay? If he was a traveler, it would be 3 days and 3 nights. Okay? And also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to wipe over his turban too. He would wipe over his turban too when making wudu. And as a Muslim woman, you can do the same. If you are at work, for example, and it's time to make salat, you can wipe over your hijab, the top of your hijab. You don't have to pull the hijab up and wipe the hair or any of that either. Again, Islam is simple. Islam is easy. It's just that we make it so hard on ourselves. Also, what about this? What if there's no water available? What if there's no water available? Well, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us to perform tayammum. And how do we do that? By simply striking the ground and then rubbing your hands together and then blowing on them and wiping over your face. And it can be done with any type of dirt or sand or dust. Also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whenever any man from amongst my people happened to be, when the time for prayer overtook him, he has his mosque and his means of purifying himself. The earth is a place of prayer for us. The entire earth is a place of worship for us, guys. So if there's no water available and there you can't get in your car and run up the street to the gas station to get some, you're out stranded in the desert or you're out stranded on the highway with nowhere to get nowhere, you can just strike the ground, the dirt, and then rub the hands together, blow them, and then wipe over the face and perform wudu with that. Again, the ease of Islam. The ease and beauty of Islam. And when it comes to making prayer, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us that we're not perfect. We make mistakes as human beings. We often forget. In fact, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam once said, I am only a human being like you. So I forget just as you do. And if I make a mistake, remind me. So what he told the people is, when praying, if the imam makes a mistake, the women should clap their hands and the men should say, Subhanallah. Okay, to get his attention. And if a person makes a mistake and forgets how many rakats they're making, and you happen to remember that you forgot one rakat, then before you give salams, make 2 prostrations of forgetfulness. In other words, prostrate 2 times. And that'll make up for that rakat that you forgot or missed. And if you find yourself making more rakats than you need to make, then you give the taslim and then do the 2 rakats, the 2 prostrations of forgetfulness after you taslim out. So again, Allah taught us how to perform our obligations to Him. And Allah taught us, we know that sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we forget. Okay, and these are all the hadiths where the Prophet said how the Prophet made mistakes. One time he prayed 3 rakats for the Asr prayer, then entered his home, and the people reminded him that he only did 3, so he went out and prayed the 1 rakat that he forgot. So these are all hadiths showing that our Prophet was a human being, and sometimes he forgot and made mistakes too, and what to do in those situations. And also, guys, it's not from the sunnah of our Prophet to close your eyes when praying. The Prophet taught us that when we're making salat, your eyes should be on this position on the floor where your head will meet for sujood. The Jews are the ones that close their eyes when they pray, and so do the Christians. And he wanted us to be different. But if you are a person who concentrates better with your eyes closed, there's nothing wrong with that. But you want to try to keep your eyes open if you can and stay focused on that position where your head will meet in sujood. Okay? And also, one of the things that you see a lot of Muslims doing after they pray is making dua. This is incorrect. The Prophet did not make dua after the prayer. He taught us to make dua during the prayer. You should be making your personal supplications when you're in sujood and after reciting the final tashahhud. So what did the Prophet do after giving taslim? Well, after giving taslim, he would seek forgiveness for his sins. He used to say, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. He would say it sometimes 100 times, sometimes 50 times, sometimes 3 times. Okay? Astaghfirullah means, oh Allah, forgive me, oh Allah, forgive me, oh Allah, forgive me. Sometimes he would say, Subhanallahi, Subhanallahi, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. He would praise and glorify Allah after the prayer. He did not sit there making personal supplications like many Muslims today do. So, thus, guys, these are all reminders of the wudu, reminders of the prayer. Because again, so many Muslims today make the religion hard on us by telling us that we have to do things that Allah didn't say we have to do. And we have to be careful of that. You know, unless I break my wudu, I don't have to remake it. And I can wipe over my shoes. I can wipe over my socks. I can wipe over my hijab as long as I made wudu over those body parts once during that day. Okay? And on that note, we're going to stop right here for today. Sunnahfollowers. Protectors of the Sunnah.